basing that off of, I've never heard the song.
Oh, so you were sort of in on the making of the song.
No, I'm just guessing that maybe he explained it and played the song for it. But I don't.
I think I already knew it.
I never knew it. I never knew it. I don't know it now. I only know it as a Sal Capaccio song.
I was getting my hair cut last week.
I'm fine living my life that way.
And heard Say Geronimo, and it's so weird. How about you on this, Sal? It's so weird to hear the original song now. Like you almost never do. But I always thought it was kind of catchy and fun. But now
it was one of those. It was. I'm surprised, Bulldog. Like, I mean, I know it's not your type of music necessarily, but I'm surprised you didn't hear it very often because this was like it was really hot for about a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's called Shepherd Song or Shepherd by Geronimo. Or Say Geronimo by Shepherd. Is that what it is? Say Geronimo by Shepherd or something like that.
Say Geronimo is
Either
the song.
way, you get the point.
Yeah. I miss a lot of pop music stuff.
I had to tell him who Taylor Swift was recently.
My kids aren't the age where, and we never really listened to that radio anyway. When my kids were little, like we listened to what we liked.
The drive-by truckers.
They grew up singing Rancid songs when they're in their car seats. So they did not hear.
I won't ask Owen then when he thinks of Say Geronimo.
A lot of Kiss 98.5.
Sorry, Kiss. Sorry, Janet. All right, Sal, let's start with Joshua Palmer on this very eventful day around the NFL. The Bills get a receiver. I think this will be an interesting guy to talk about. I mean, we've already had it in here this afternoon. Just sort of both sides of the coin.
For sure, and I get it. You look at the production, hasn't been overwhelming, no doubt about that. He's not putting up all these fancy numbers. Free agency is about fits. Free agency is about what you need to round out your team. You can go with guys that are, big names, obviously, and you also have an opportunity to try and fit guys into what you're trying to do. This is a fit signing for the Bills. This is something they've needed. This is a man-to-man beater on the outside, something they desperately need. He's physical at the point of attack. He's physical at the top of the route. He is a man-to-man beater, not by running straight down the field. He's an excellent route runner, very strong hands, can make contested catches with guys around him. He actually kind of, in a way, I'm not saying they're the same player, but I've been trying to find a guy. I think it's a lot like Amari Cooper was a little bit throughout his career. Now, again, Amari Cooper, much more productive. I get it, right? But that's his game where, it's kind of deceptive. He puts up these numbers because you're like, he's not super fast. He's not running away from people. But what did he do? He's a really good route runner. He can catch the ball with people around him. The Bills needed this player. We've all been asking for them to have an outside threat that can catch the ball and beat press coverage. He is a press coverage beater, actually.
Yeah, this is my Amari Cooper replacement, is what it is. Even though he doesn't rise to the level of what they were shopping for when they acquired Cooper during the season. That's a player that's had 100-catch, 1,000-yard, like big number one receiver type years. While this player lacks that, the skill set, what his attributes are, I think suitably replace Cooper. And so there's your move. Provided they can find their way to Hollins, retaining him. I'm assuming they would like to do that on some sort of something similarly modest to what he came here originally for. I hope that that's realistic. I think they might be kind of all set at receiver, Sal. Maybe they can draft somebody to develop, but an urgency to get somebody on the field, I think, has been filled by this signing.
Yeah, unprompted, my buddy John Harris from the Houston Texans, you guys know, you've had him on the air. He's very big into the draft and scouting guys and all that, and obviously, he's an NFL sideline reporter. Unprompted, he texted me. I'll read you what he wrote. He's very much in on Josh Palmer. He said, I really wanted him here. Very good move for the Bills. Physical dude with great hands. I fell in love with him last year at Tennessee and then seeing him up close at the Senior Bowl. He's a great fit with Shakir. His last year at Tennessee, I think he meant.
Yeah.
Great fit with Shakir and Josh. So that's a rave review. Last night on the Always Game Day in Buffalo podcast, Matt Bove asked me if you could choose one guy, give me one name who the Bills might sign. Josh Palmer was my answer. And I will give credit to Eric Turner of Cover One, who actually turned me on to him a little bit more when he did a great breakdown of him a while ago. Joe Marino's very much a fan of his, as you guys have heard earlier today. I heard a caller talk about it. So, I think this is a guy that fits. Now, what does it mean for the rest of the receiving core? I agree. They'd want to have Mac Hollins back. It always just feels like that's a fit. Mac Hollins is going to play special teams. He's going to be a gunner like he was. He can do that. He kind of accepts that role. He's a blocker. Josh Palmer can be physical. He can be a good blocker. It's not necessarily the role you'd have him on the field for necessarily, but I think in the Bills' offense, he'll probably do more of that than he did for the Chargers.
So what does this move, if you know, do for where the Bills are with money to spend? They got the deals done over the weekend, the Allen extension. Like, can they play some more here? How realistic is it to think that there might be more?
Oh, yeah, I think so. So we don't have the numbers on the Allen extension yet. His cap number this year was scheduled to be $44 million. So he signs this massive extension, $250 guaranteed, $330 total, $55 per year. That's extended over 6 years. There could be void years in there too, guys. Could be a 6-year. Let's remember, I'll remind people, it's not a 6-year extension. He had 4 years remaining. He's not under contract for 10 years. It's a new 6-year deal ripping up the old 4-year deal. It's a 2-year extension essentially, but with a lot of new money. But what you can do is you can add void years on top of that to extend the money out 7 years or 8 years. So my guess is his salary cap number is going to be much lower. Let's just say it's $20 million. Okay, that frees up 22. I would say going into the weekend, Spot Track and Over the Cap had them both right around $1 million over. Then they extended Greg Rousseau. We learn now they shaved off $8 million off that Greg Rousseau number. So they should be probably about $7 million under. We're totally guessing and estimating here. Then the Von Miller release happened. That puts you about $15 million under. Then the Josh Allen extension happens. That could be another 20. You could be looking at a good 25 to 30, and then we'll see what it is here for Josh Palmer. So I think they can certainly play still.
Do you think it's pretty much right or not at all to look at all this around the league, which is what I'm kind of doing? Just like, I mean, it's a great time to be a player, but it's also a great time to be a GM because there is just not a lot of stress, I think, right now, relatively speaking, for these guys. I think of some of the deals, maybe like Rousseau and a lot of others around the league. The team makes the offer and the player says, okay, it's just so good. And, you can seeing what Philadelphia proved, I guess, by pushing money off void years and like 4 or 5 years down the road. Let's just spend and then we'll figure it out later.
Yeah, I like that point, Mike. It's you can project out. You look at the new TV money. You look at where the cap has gone the last 2 years, over $50 million from just a few years ago to this year. I mean, to me, I look at Greg Rousseau's deal as a great example of this. Greg Rousseau was going to make $13 million on the cap this year. Excuse me. They lowered that down $8 million to just over $5 million. But next year, he's still only $11 million on the cap. It's not until 2027 that he gets to 23. And by then, this is your point, which is, okay, by then we'll figure it out. Who cares? Because it's going to change anyway, and we'll have to do some creative accounting, but you can definitely do that. So I agree with you. I think that with the exception of maybe what happened in Cleveland and Andrew Berry and what he's going through and trying to deal with that, Cincinnati's a tough one for Duke Tobin, obviously. And you have to have an owner that's willing to say, I'm giving you the money to spend. You can do that. But yeah, generally I think in the NFL right now, because they're just printing money and the salary cap changes and you can just have these void years and push money down the road, that I think being a general manager is kind of like, it's fantasy land time, basically.
Well, we know like what we got lost dreaming about in the case of Myles Garrett, it was 6 weeks or almost 2 months. We had a few days where it was hot and heavy with the DK Metcalf idea. Obviously, both of those ships sailed yesterday, but needs remain for the Bills. I guess at receiver, though, like we've already said previously in this conversation, like I think they're done. Maybe they draft a guy, and they'll probably fill out with maybe some version of what they did last offseason with taking flyers on some guys to see if someone can reclaim lost glory.
Plus Hollins,
right? Of course, right. Defensive end, defensive tackle. I mean, the Garrett dream died. We saw them release Von Miller, and guys are, signing bit by bit as the day goes on here. Are there still guys out there, Sal? You mentioned how you called your shot to an extent on Palmer last night talking with Matt Bove. Mm-hmm. Are there players on defense at tackle or defensive end, or I guess even corner, where you can see similar value that the Bills might be doing some work on?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to remember, that we're going to see this money now, and then a lot of that money is going to dry up, and then teams are going to basically, and players, I should say, who are free agents, are going to then say, okay, well, I have to sign for a little bit less. And a lot of times, that's kind of the area where the Bills start to play a little bit, right? And they say, okay, now that this money is dried up, now he can start to do that. Yeah, I mean, just guys-wise, player-wise, not really sure because I think that, a lot of this stuff has already been taken care of with some of the guys. Poona Ford was out there, but, man, he got paid. That was a guy that I thought, okay, he's familiar with the system. He's been a Buffalo Bill. He could come in. Who was the other one? Who was the guy that signed the Broncos?
DJ Jones.
DJ Jones, thank you. That DJ Jones was a guy that I talked about. I think we mentioned him on the pod last night. So he's probably a guy that went for a little bit more than I thought. Let's see who else could be out there. Chauncey Goldston, he's a guy that is out there that I don't think that he's signed anywhere yet. What about you talking about cornerback? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you want to dip into and see, is Asante Samuel Jr. somebody you're interested in? Paulson Adebo just signed today with the New York Giants. That's somebody who is out there, but how good really is he? I'm not sure. This is where you get to they're overpaying these guys, and they're not really worth the money they're getting. The fact that they have this Christian Benford thing sitting out there, and we're not sure at who the number 2 corner is, I've been thinking about this a lot today, which is, what is their long-term plan at corner? Are they going to draft guys? Corner could become a spot where we really talk about on the first couple of days of the draft. They may look to get younger there. And that's not saying they won't keep Christian Benford. The fact, if they go out and sign a big-ticket item, I think it's harder. But if they don't at corner, I think that's a signal that they're going to pay Benford down within the next 12 months, I guess.
Sal Capaccio on the West Shore Hotline, a very busy day and weekend around the NFL. We got the quarterback shuffling we've been waiting for. It's too late for that carousel draft, Bulldog. You can't do that now. It'd be too easy.
We really blew it.
It'd be too easy. Justin Fields to the Jets. Could that work?
No.
I don't think that's a great fit right now, but I like Justin Fields, for him to go there. I think that's good for him. I think he needs to kind of get out of that situation he was in Pittsburgh, where I don't know if they handled him correctly, and he's probably pretty frustrated by how it went down, and he was the guy, and he was winning games. They went to Russ, and it wound up working out in the end, but for him to go somewhere where maybe there's a little less pressure, they're resetting, they're restarting a little bit, you have a really great, talented young wide receiver, but guys, I mean, look what the Jets have lost here in free agency. It seems like they're kind of resetting a little bit. 14-year playoff drought, probably going to be 15. Aaron Glenn, I think, just wants his guys in there. Looks like the Patriots are trying to do the opposite. They're trying to load up now and just get right back as soon as possible, where the Jets are like, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're going to kind of let it play out. And, they lost an offensive lineman. They're not a team, I think, that they lost DJ Reed, obviously, at corner. So they're a team, I don't know if it's going to work for the Jets. I don't think it will for their team. I mean, look, who's better? Honestly, who's better? Last year's carcass of Aaron Rodgers or Justin Fields this year for the New York Jets? I really don't know, to be quite honest with you.
Right. I feel like that might even be a push, if not a downgrade.
Right. Yes,
in
exactly.
the end. And I'll say the same thing about Rodgers. If he goes to Pittsburgh, I don't know, thoughts and prayers. That whole thing, that whole operation there, it's Tomlin and Arthur Smith. And they've got a $33 million receiver now and George Pickens. Please bring Aaron Rodgers in there. I want to just watch a reality show. I just want to follow those dudes around with cameras.
100%. We said the same thing. I was on the morning show, and I said Hard Knocks with the Steelers. If they do have Aaron Rodgers there, oh my gosh, you're right about that. I can't see that going great. And look, they're in a tough division. Steelers in a tough division with the Ravens and the Bengals, obviously, mostly, and then the Browns. Who knows what they're doing anymore? But yeah, it feels like it's just kind of grasping at straws now when it comes to what they're trying to do at quarterback as well. I mean, I like the Seahawks going out and getting Darnold, but who's he going to throw to now? I guess Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's a nice player, of course, but it just feels like they're another team that's kind of hitting the reset button a little bit here.
One other player whose name we have very rarely, we were so focused on Myles Garrett and to an extent Max Crosby, both of whom re-signed with their teams. Trey Hendrickson is still out there in the wind. I think I haven't seen anything in the last half an hour here that indicates that has changed. And I don't know, for the Bills or some other team, I wonder if the Bengals might not be ready to come apart with these salaries that guys are getting on the market at the top of the class.
Yeah, are you asking what if the Bills would be able to play?
Yeah, I guess I'm asking two things. I didn't really get that direct there. Like whether Hendrickson would be an idea worth pursuing. That's a top of market contract extension in waiting as well. And then there's the point about the Bengals being able to like sort of a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Oh, we're going to keep all our guys, and I mean I don't know. They might just end up with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow when it's all said and done.
Yeah, that's right. So I'll start with Hendrickson. Yeah, he's a fantastic player. You can go back and look at his numbers. It was crazy. I looked this morning, I didn't realize 17.5 sacks each of the last 2 years.
Right.
35 sacks over the last 2 years. He is really, really fantastic. What's the asking price? You'd have to give up assets, and then you'd have to give him the big contract as well. That's always a little bit trickier. But who knows? I mean, that is the type of player, like the Bills need a guy like this. They needed, again, whether it's a big name or not. You might not like Josh Palmer out there, and you're like, oh, my God, here's a guy who hasn't done much. I'd rather have DK Metcalf at $30 million a year. Right. That's fine. But what they needed was a separator. They needed a man-to-man beater, and that's what Josh Palmer has specialized in his career so far. You know what the Bills need on defense? They needed an edge rusher who can get to the quarterback and get the quarterback down. So, but, man, that is a really tough pool to swim in when you're talking that kind of money. Look at this money that Myles Garrett got. Look at the money Max Crosby got. Giving up assets and then giving him that kind of contract, that's a heavy lift, I think. But I would never rule it out after a few years ago when Brandon Beane said they didn't have much money and they signed Von Miller to a $120 million, 6-year contract. And as far as the Bengals are concerned, I feel a little bit bad here for Duke Tobin because I do think they intended to make Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback in history. And then, oh, by the way, here comes Myles Garrett at $40 million with that designation. Are they going to give him $40 million? He said it on record. Now, look, if they settle at 35, no one's going to be upset in Cincinnati that he said it and they got to 35. But holy cow, how do you do that and also give T. Higgins his money? And, of course, I think this seems like it's going to be a separation with them and Trey Hendrickson.
Very good, Sal. Thanks for fitting us in today. We'll talk again soon.
All right, you guys got it. Thanks a lot.
That is Sal Capaccio on the West.